Hi, this is Odeean. Today I'm having a look at Mastermind Creations' Terminus Hexatron from their new Reformatted line. His number here is R-01, Super Gladiator. Looking at the box, you can see this is a fully rendered 3D image, not a photo of the actual toy. This is one of the highest quality boxes out of any third-party product that I've got. Maybe the Amiga Supreme Planet X Genesis was a better box, but short of that, I don't think anything has done a better job than this. If you just listen, this is a heavy cardboard box. There are magnets embedded in the side here so that it clips shut like that. It's got a nice window. You can put it on display open to see this comic style graphic here, and when the figure's inside, he shows up really nice. If you remember a while ago, I reviewed this Cyber Engine Night Morpher Cyclops, and that's also by Mastermind Creations. They did a pretty good job with the box on this guy, but they've only improved it from here. So just the grade of the card here is really thick. Inside the box we get a full color instruction magazine. So when you open it up, you can see that the instructions are really pretty clear, and they highlight the parts that you want to turn in red. Very well done, and the English is pretty good in here. No English, as we call it, like in some of the other instructions that I've seen. We get this good credit card, trading card with the figure, nice and shiny, clear to see. On the back, a tech spec style bio. So who is Hexatron, and why do we have a big high-end toy of him? Well, this is one of my volumes of IDW's Transformers, and if I just open it up here to Spotlight Sixshot, we can see that IDW really kind of turned Sixshot into an ultimate badass, where he's a planet-destroying weapon who can do amazing feats of destruction, and starts to change his kind of allegiance a little bit through the comic, and he gets featured quite a bit. So I think this is probably one of the strong reasons why Sixshot has been brought into the forefront of Transformers. And on top of that, he hasn't had a new toy in a very long time. So here's Sixshot. He has been out for quite some time now, and I've had this figure sitting on my shelf for ages, but I didn't really get the motivation to review it because there's been some other pretty good reviews of this guy, but in a little bit of a lull now, waiting for some new deliveries, so I thought I will finally pull him down. There's a couple of points that I want to address before getting into the main part of the review, and that is, firstly, as I mentioned before, this is from the same group who brought us Cyclops, and you remember this is a pretty mediocre figure at best. It kind of falls apart in your hands because of just the numerous tabs that don't want to go into each other, and I have reviewed this before. Sixshot is a world apart, and if it didn't say so on the box, I wouldn't believe that it's by the same group, whereas this guy is kind of poorly connected. Sixshot is more of a solid chunk with ratchets making it hold its position instead of tabs, and they're really worlds apart. So you can kind of put Cyclops out of your mind if you're thinking on getting Sixshot. The second issue I want to address is a QC issue with my figure, and I don't know how widely spread this is, but you see here on the front of the shins, these sections can bend up like this, and there are these little plastic rods that tab it in to these holes up here. Now they should be straight like this one, and what happens is, as you bend it down, you can see that it just tabs in and makes that connection. My other one here is extremely bent, maybe 30 degrees of being bent. Now I unscrewed the figure and pulled it apart and pulled out that little bit of plastic, and it was it looked melted or deformed, like something went wrong in the injection process, and it was originally 180 degrees rotated, so it was bending in the other direction. Now I pulled it out and put it in backwards, and it seems to have helped. Like, it can tab down now like that, so it still functions, but I can see that there's that bending was not intentional. So if that's a common QC issue, I haven't heard of it before my copy of the figure. Other than that, the general QC and niceness of the figure is pretty good. We've got ratchets all over the place, which is fantastic. I don't know if the sound of these is picking up on camera, but he has ratchets on the in and out for those shoulders there. We have ratchets on the in and out at the hip, more on the backwards and forwards, although it's a pretty minor ratchet. Heavy duty ratchets here on the knee. And in here, I think you can see it, but you probably won't be able to hear it, little ratchets on the foot. Having a look at the back of the knee where that ratchet was, that was the really heavy duty one. You can see it's quite a thick ratchet. This ratcheting piece is actually the piece that I turned around 180 degrees to get that nub back in. So it didn't affect the transformation or posability whatsoever doing that. He does have a waist swivel, but to access it, first you have to move this panel kind of out of the way, and then after that he can go the whole way around, which is pretty good. If you don't care about that, of course, you can just keep that up there where it looks a little bit better. The shoulder is just a swivel backwards and forwards, and the head is on a ball. The hands are on little balls here as well, and each finger is individually posable. Here you can see them all spread out, or they can all open equally far like that. The thumb is on a little ball joint, and the gun slots into this tab on the inside of the palm, which is pretty cool. Never seen that anywhere else before. It works to some degree, although I don't know why they made the handle of the gun not perfectly round, because if you rotate it like that, it just comes out. Maybe that's intentional, like a release mechanism, I'm not sure. His katanas each have a sheath like this. You can see if you pull it out, there's some glyphs on the side, very much like what was on Drift sword. The good thing about these is that if you look at the mounting point, that little peg which is going to peg into the swing bar on his waist is not exactly a cylindrical prism. The top circle has a very slightly smaller diameter than the bottom circle, and what that means is that the further you push it in, the greater the friction will be. So you can put it there and it will hold. If you push it harder, the friction is even more, and the result of this is that in a normal situation, wear and tear of coming on and off like this would end up making it loose over time because the surface would wear down. But because it's slightly cone shaped, you can always just push it in a little bit harder to get more friction. So over time, I don't think that is going to be a problem. We get 2 of these rifles with the set, and particular care has gone into these as well, although at first sight it might just seem like an ordinary molded gun. If you notice on the end, it's got a hole in the end of the barrel, whereas most Transformer weapons don't have that. And to get that, they've had to mold this in 2 pieces so that there's a seam running down here, and I'm not entirely sure how they've stuck the 2 pieces together. It could be glue, or perhaps they've got a little physical locking mechanism that snaps together between the 2 pieces. But either way, they've gone to extra effort in order to be able to have this barrel cavity. So I do appreciate that. You can dual wield both of these guns if you want, or there's many mounting points where you can just stick guns, like maybe up here is another good place to get them out of the way, all over the place. Pretty cool. What all this versatility with the joints and weapons brings us is the ability to hit a really cool pose like that. So looking here, you can see he's able to grab the end of his sword while it's still in the sheath, like he's about to whip it out and cut you in half. There's not many figures that could actually hold their own weapon in place like that on the hip. That is one of the best things about the posability on this guy. Mastermind Creations have showed some pictures of recolors or slight retools, I'm not sure, of Sixshot into other characters. I don't particularly need to get those other characters, but depending on price, I may do so. Well, I've got a feeling they'll be more exclusive. But to facilitate those heads, this helmet unit can pop off like that, revealing a pink brain on the top of Sixshot's head. Now it does screw up the proportions a little bit. I can't imagine his skull would be that small inside the helmet, but it is a little bit cool. And actually, it's funny because I just got the Dangare Soul of Chugokin, and his helmet also comes off with a little brain section on top. So two figures that I got in the same box have the same kind of feature. Pop that back on. Now, there's a chromed version of this coming out. It was pretty cheap. I did initially order it off BBTS for like $8 or $9, but I since cancelled it. I don't think I need it. And finally, to end a long list of features before I've even got to the transformation, these shuriken weapons. So you can see I've got one there in his fingers, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wheels on this figure, and if you just grab something to help you pop it off with, like a screwdriver, you can disconnect these little discs from the wheel like a hubcap, and they have geared points in them which are all connected to each other and rotate out just in the same fashion as Prowl from Animated, his little cap discs, and they form these really pointy, deadly looking weapons. The plastic is a little bit more flexible, so I don't think it's going to break. Even though they're quite pointy, it's not flimsy feeling, so I guess he could throw them around. Now, I like to hold them on the figure like this. I pop out the forefinger and thumb and just pinch the blade like that. That's how I like to display it. But there are a few ways he can grab onto that. None of them are like a peg, like a secure bond in the hand, but they do go back onto their mounting points pretty easily, just with a snap, and that's a secure connection. So none of them are going to fall out of their own accord. After all that, now we get to the transformation. So first, into the wolf mode. I'm going to put the arms out beside them like this, and the way that you need to pose the fists for transformation is to get the thumb on top and the fingers closed like so. Pull the guns off, pull the swords off. The instructions say you can do it with the swords, but you should pull them off, so I will do so. We need to open the chest panel here and just fold the head in and close it back up again. Grab these hands and bend them down, and now the hand will, if you've got all the fingers closed, wow, what am I doing wrong? Fold up into the cavity and snap it back shut again. Do the same on the other side. Fold these panels in on themselves like this. Now this is kind of, they show it like this, an intermediate mode that you have to return to do the other steps in transforming to other vehicles. They show it just like that. But to get to the wolf, we put the wolf's fingers up like this, sort of get these a little bit out to the sides. Bend the body over like so, rotate the legs around so that the foot is pointing in the opposite direction. Lift up these panels on the shins. I want to close up the feet, but not that heel panel. Bring this shin back down, and then the heel panel can go over the top of the end of that. Repeat it on the other side. And then you can see our kind of hind paws of the wolf in here, and that will be how it sits. It's almost done now. There's not much to get to this mode. Fold back this wing section and separate it a bit, then separate these panels at the front here, and that just gives a bit of clearance to pull out the head and neck of the wolf. After that, you can close it back up and just pose these wings however you like. That's a pretty mad looking wolf. I like the way his teeth are kind of techno teeth. They're these chunky little triangle things. The mouth can open and close, and the teeth mesh together like that. A lot of posability in this head. The figure itself in this position is not super posable. You can see that the legs just kind of have to stay in this weird arched position. From the side, it doesn't look too good. If you want, I guess you can bend them straighter, but I think it looks even worse straighter, so I tend to just do that. I think you're meant to view it from 3/4 like this, and from 3/4 it looks pretty good. If I just float up a bit, you can see he does have the wings, so it is winged wolf mode. And if you want, on these wings you can mount the guns up there. I think that's where I like the guns. And you could also mount the blades pointing backwards like this, or there's plenty of other ways that you could put them on. For a size comparison, here's Mattel Classics Black Lion next to Hexatron. So even though Hexatron's big, he's still nothing compared to a Black Lion, but he's big in the realms of Transformers. Here's how he stacks up to a Leo convoy. Wow. And here's how he stacks up to, God, which version is this? Is this the Bruticus version, maybe? Or, anyway, based off the leader of Beast Planet from Cybertron, whose name's just kind of slipped my mind. But that's how you do a Dragon Transformer. Man, compared to what we've got now at passing as Dragons, this is 100 times better. But as far as size goes, these guys are almost the same sort of class, I think. It's just that there's a bit more heft to Hexatron here, but these guys pose very well together. It makes me want to get more of, what's that, an Ultra? What makes me want to get more of those Ultras out. Mode number 3, car mode or armoured tank. So we're back to the intermediate stage. Just make sure that these hands are kind of folded up, these beast hands, the claws, are in this position. Make sure that the back of the elbow is tabbed in on both sides, like that, making it rigid. These pieces here are going to tab in also, so that they're sideways rigid, and that's sort of closed as much as it can go. Open up the shin panels, fold in the feet, and then close them again, and just have the beast foot with the robot heel sandwiched together as tightly as what they can fit, like that. Put the arms and legs out in this position, and then rotate the shins towards each other like this. There's a little flap on each side that needs to be opened, and then they're going to close up like so. Once it gets past a certain point, you want to start closing that panel again, because it can't fully transform with the panel open, and you'll see that it just sort of, it gets put away. I can't show you step by step, it's a simultaneous thing. The panels have to close as the legs collapse in on themselves. This tab here just pushes into the side, do the same on the opposite side, give it a nice squeeze to make it all go together, and that's essentially it. You can close up these panels on the front. Okay, it's a pretty ugly armoured car mode. I've got to admit that it does roll well, and that their use of the weight of the plastic has kept it balanced. It looks like the pivot point is here and that it should flip over, but unless you're pushing it really fast, it does tend to hold its position. But it looks kind of wrong. I mean, in profile you can see that there's far too much of the bulk in the front, and no one would build such a thing like that. You've got to make some compromises to be a six changer, and that's one of them. The instructions suggest mounting all the weapons on top like that, but I feel that that makes it look even worse, because now you can't see the few details that made it stand out as a car, like this grille at the front and the cockpit. So maybe my least favourite mode. Pretty ugly. Next we're going to go to laser pistol mode, so back to intermediate mode. Now I like to do this a little bit different from what it says in the instructions, just because I find the clearances are better if I do it this way. So I'm going to start by untabbing this section at the back like that, and hold all this still and just rotate the waist right around 180 degrees. After that, I like to bring these two sections together like that. Next, we want to rotate at the knee so that the shins are pointing towards each other. Open up the little panels at the sides, and we're going to start moving this up. Now, after we get some clearance, we want to move the toes into their cavities, and it's much like forming the armored personnel carrier mode, except it's kind of, these aren't going to go to the sides anymore, they're going to go to the front, and they tab together nicely there. On the back you can see that these panels will just sit flush against it like that. This cockpit area that we loosened before is going to tab in. It's a little bit hard, but if you squeeze it, it will go into the little tab holes there and kind of make a lock. Now, these are fine just up here like this, but if you do it like the instructions say, I find that these animal paws really hit this section at the back here and make it almost impossible to turn around. At this stage, I think what I'm going to do is just join the handle unit together, because that's where the handle's going to be in the end. The next thing is to rotate these right up so that the arms are pointing upwards, and move these points at the end so that they're pointing backwards. There are little flaps at the side of the arms that have to open up like that. We want to temporarily move back this whole panel section on the back of the arm so that we can grab a hold of this joint, and I'm going to rotate the joint so that the nice side is facing this way, and then I'm going to rotate the rest of this around so that it's in this direction. And what that will let me do just is close that up again and bring them, it's hard to see, I'm going to bring them together like this, and they actually tab into each other like that. And that's it. The size of this gun is suited to my adult man's hand, so it's pretty cool. It doesn't look much like a laser pistol, but if you want, you can add on all his weapons. It's up to you. You can really put them wherever you like. Like if you wanted to click these on, I'm sure they will fit. Oh, no, they don't fit. Maybe like usual, they can go into where the belt holds them like that. I don't like using these weapons in these alt modes. I think they just look cluttered. So I'm willing to suspend my disbelief and just think that the laser blast comes out of the end of this pistol section here. It's a solid mode. Like, the toy, as I said before, really tabs together solidly, and the ratchet joints are really solid. So although it might look a little bit kludgy, it is definitely solid in its construction. For a size comparison of the gun mode, here we've got Hexatron, here is Quakewave. So Hexatron's handle area is big enough for my hand to really solidly grasp, whereas Quakewave, you can see the finger area at the bottom, it goes off the handle, so it's not suited to an adult hand. But clearly the gun of Quakewave looks better than the gun of Hexatron, but that's because that's his alt mode. He only has two modes, gun and robot, and he's designed to look good that way, whereas Hexatron has to be more versatile. I do personally like Quakewave a bit more, but they're very close in the quality of these two guys. It's not clear cut. It would definitely come down to personal preference, which one would be the better toy to have. Hexatron does beat out Quakewave in price a little bit at the current asking price though, I guess. The colours of the purple there are very similar, and I know on camera they're showing up more blue, but they're really purple, but to my eye they're exactly the same colour purple in person, with the only difference being that Hexatron is a little bit more glossy, whereas there's more of a matte finish on Quakewave here. Next I'm going to go straight to Starfighter mode, and that's because it's very similar to this mode. So the first thing that we want to do is rotate this whole section around. If you're prepared to just pull out these bits a bit, you can force it to go around. I don't normally do that. For the sake of the review, I made that horrible grating noise. Except for this review, I will never do that again. Put these like this, move the tail fins out into this direction. We want to spread the wing units out, like so. Put back this underneath cockpit thing. Just tab it back to where it belongs there. Then get a screwdriver or something to help you pull out these little landing gear sections. This is the front landing gear. Goes down like that. There's also two side landing gear here, which can be a little bit tricky to get your fingers into, so I use a screwdriver there as well. And that's it. Spaceship mode. In spaceship mode, we can mount the rifles at the side like that. That helps it look a bit better. I think I would have liked the wings to stick out further, but that's just, you know, aesthetics. In space, it doesn't really matter if you've got wings or not. A cool little hidden feature at the back here is that if you grab the middle claw and pull it out like so, you can reveal turbo boosters underneath for extra power. I like little hidden details like that. That's pretty cool. Coming untabbed. I think that the spaceship mode is my third favorite mode. So my first favorite mode is robot mode, and then the wolf mode, then spaceship mode, then the other three modes I don't like. Now we're down to the final mode, the tank mode. To get to tank mode, what we've got to do is just untab these sections here, and this is a pretty cool thing as well. You can flip this whole unit around like that and back down again, so it reverses the direction of the tank treads. It's pretty innovative, and I think a lot of thought went into that feature. While you're at it, also reverse the tank treads on the forearms, like that. Fold the claws into the backwards position. Open up the shin pads on the legs like this and fold in the toes. Shut the shin pads over the top, bend back the heel, and put the animal claws into the outwards position. Lie the whole thing flat like this, and then just bend all of these parts here, the legs, into a, like it's bent over the top. You can see that they kind of tab together, and then once you've done that, you can close these up a little bit at the back. The wings are then supposed to move down back around the base of those legs like this, and that is essentially it. There are some tabs here that can tab those wings into the arm section just to keep everything in place. You can see that it's supposed to sit on the tank treads like that. It is a tank after all, and not roll on these wheels, but it doesn't, those tank treads, they kind of disappear under all this detail, so you can't see them too well. It doesn't much look like a tank. This may well be the worst mode, now that I think about it. It doesn't look like anything in particular, although you can add the guns, and that is supposed to make it look more formidable. You can also unsheath the swords from the scabbards, and they tab in just down here. The swords themselves can slot in along the side like that if you must hold them somewhere, but no matter how you put it, it's pretty weak, and I don't know what to say. Looks like nothing. Let's get it back to robot mode. My final thoughts. There's been a bit of a backwards and forwards about whether this is a masterpiece sized Sixshot. If that was the case, here's MP10 next to him, and you can see that they're about the same size. I don't believe that Sixshot, at least from IDW continuity, should be the same size as MP10, so for me he's not masterpiece. He doesn't really have the intricacy of masterpiece either, but I'm really happy with the size that Mastermind Creations have chosen to make him, because if I grab another character, here's Wheelie. Wheelie also features in IDW's universe. To me, these guys look exactly right, how I would want them to be next to each other if they jumped off the page and onto my shelf. Sixshot is supposed to be one of the most formidable weapons in existence, and there's no reason that he should be the same size as Optimus Prime. So for my money, this is spot on, and maybe a Voyager Prime up to about here would be perfectly scaled to him as well. He's got good stability and strength of joint. Here you can see him balanced on 1 foot on a foam mat. So there's not a lot of figures that have ankle tilts that are this big and heavy where you could say that they can do that. I mean, look at that. That's amazing. The proof is in seeing it. You can't argue the fact that he's capable of doing that. The ratchets are rock solid, and the poses that you can hit are so nice and organic that in robot mode especially, he looks awesome no matter what you do with him. And coupled with the amount of accessories, it's really a joy to have. And the build quality is totally unexpected for me. So it just feels good. Look at that. Click, click, click. It's awesome. Awesome to mess around with. It doesn't feel like something is going to go wrong. It feels like he's going to last as long as I want him to last, which is exactly how I want my figures to be. I don't want them to be fragile, and I mean, I like intricacy, but I don't like intricacy at the expense of usability. I say it's not intricate, but there is a great deal of detailing. Some people think too much with all the fins and lines everywhere. I'm not in the camp that think he has too much. I'm happy with the detailing that he's got. And when I say intricacy, what I mean is all those tiny little parts that you have to fiddle around with. He doesn't seem to have that. I mean, he does have a high parts count, but just when you get it in person, that it feels so rugged that it doesn't feel like a masterpiece would feel, like something might break or some pin might snap out of plastic. It feels more like something that was made by people who wanted to play with it, not by people who just wanted to leave it in a display case. And for that, I'm kind of grateful. It's a huge departure from how I felt about their other big figure, the Cyclops figure, which was really disastrous in my opinion, in comparison especially to this. The price is also really attractive. I mean, I think I paid $125 for this before shipping, and that is amazing. I mean, figures that are much smaller than this for the third-party companies are going at the same price. So I'm not quite sure how they did it. I'm guessing they're relying on the inevitability of repaints, given that they've showed repaints of this coming up. But I'm just kind of flabbergasted at how they could do it at that price. And I think it's going to affect other third-party companies who are trying to make big figures, because I don't see how a lot of other companies are going to be able to compete with that. I mean, it's just a really low price for such a big figure. Anyway, this has been my video review for Terminus Hexatron by Mastermind Creations from their new reformatted line. I'm Odeean, and thanks for watching.